I want to start today by thanking my colleagues that are standing up here with me. Nicholas Wainwright, Jennifer Casho, Ellie Uash, all members of our firm here in Chicago, Gould, Greco, and Hensley, practicing nationwide but focusing primarily on cases here in Chicago. I want to start also by thanking everyone that's in the room with us today, as well as anybody that's joining us virtually online. But finally, and most importantly, I want to thank our incredible client. She's made the decision, the brave decision, to come forward to file this lawsuit today and share what took place at Farragut Academy here in Chicago decades ago. Throughout the lawsuit and today, we'll be referring to her as Jane Doe to preserve her identity and to protect her, even still as she fears retaliation from what began at the Chicago Public School decades ago. The Chicago Public Schools failed our client. They failed her repeatedly for years, and the impact on her life is permanent. She was a CPS student. She started her freshman year at the age of 14 in 2012. She attended CPS Farragut Academy in the Little Village neighborhood where she grew up. Like many students that attend Farragut, she was interested in the JROTC program. And just like we'd expect of any young student, she sought out CPS employees that might be able to help understand the program and what her future after school could look like. Unfortunately, who she found was a predator. She was directed to a female school security guard whose mother was an administrator at the school. The security guard began by grooming her, sending her Instagram messages. She then escalated to giving Jane Doe rides home from school and softball games, until eventually it culminated in repeated, years-long sexual abuse that extended all the way through the end of her high school career. What we know is this CPS security guard isolated Jane Doe. She warned her not to tell anyone about the abuse. Even worse, she threatened her and her family. The security guard told her that given her mother's position within the school, she could find out information, personal information, where Jane Doe and her family lived. The security guard told Jane Doe that she would call immigration if she ever said anything. Let that sink in. A CPS employee threatening to call ICE on a student's family if she came forward with the truth, that she was being sexually abused repeatedly as a child. And amidst all of this, the abuse, the threats, CPS was put on direct notice. Direct notice that this was happening, that one of their students had been groomed and was being abused by one of their employees. We know this because a whistleblower came forward to tell the administration about the sexual abuse. That whistleblower was the security guard's then wife. She told the CPS administration about messages she had found on the security guard's phone with Jane Doe, a student, a child. There is no evidence we are aware of that this was ever referred to DCFS, the CPD, or any other law enforcement agency. Instead, the investigation was handled internally, and it was closed with no reprimand and no punishment. The security guard kept her job within the CPS for years, and our client was forced to transfer schools. Forced to transfer because the security guard's mother, the administrator, and the administration at the CPS school convinced Jane Doe and her family that the transfer would be the best thing for her. In reality, it was the best thing for the security guard. It was the best thing for the administration. It was the best thing for the Board of Education, without any regard for the damage that had already been done and that would continue. The lasting effects of this sordid abuse continue up through today. And that is why we have brought this lawsuit, to try to restore what was lost and what has been taken from our client, to demonstrate the lifelong impact this has had on her. It's a tale as old as time within the Chicago Public Schools, and it's not too hard to tell. A family places their trust in the CPS, its administrators, its employees, only for those same employees to let their students down by failing to do the right thing, by failing to do what they are obligated under the law to do. That is exactly what happened here. The Chicago Public Schools knowingly kept a predator on its payroll. They allowed this person to continue working with children at Farragut despite having direct knowledge of the allegations and the evidence, and they never reported it. This is just one instance of the hundreds, if not thousands, of employee abuse against children that the CPS has permitted to happen over the years. A principal, a dean, a teacher, a security guard, a CPS employee taking advantage of their position, grooming and abusing children, and no one stepping in to stop it. Employee sexual misconduct against students is a plague within the CPS that existed then, and it still exists today. What we are here to tell you is that this was not confined to a single school or campus. It did not start in 2012 with Jane Doe, and it did not end with her. It was happening all around the city during this time, especially in the Little Village neighborhood, and it had been for years. It was and still is today widespread within the Chicago Public Schools. We know that last year alone there were dozens of instances of this very same thing happening over a decade later. The Board of Education is on notice, and they've been on notice. This is a systemic problem that can and must be fixed. Children and their safety is paramount. It must be the top priority of every school within the Chicago Public Schools. The Board of Education must acknowledge that once and for all with lasting, meaningful change. Otherwise, these lawsuits will continue, one case at a time, until the entire CPS system breaks under the weight of its own failures. Thank you. Open it up to any questions at this time if there are any. Yes?
More just about the student's decision to want to come forward now and file a civil complaint. Have there been discussions about filing any criminal action, or where the statute of limitation leaves those options for you?
Yeah, so, as Mr. Hensley mentioned, our client went through a horrible ordeal. It's been decades. She's still processing this. And I think the main focus for her was protecting both herself and her family. The threats against her family were very real. And given the familial relationship within the administration, that was really her primary focus in not bringing this to light. She's finally at a point where, although she's still dealing with the catastrophic toll it's taken on her mentally, emotionally, and truly throughout every facet of her life, she's at a point now where she does feel more comfortable moving forward with her story, with the protections the court will give her to proceed anonymously. But it is important to her that this is recognized, that her story is heard, and that she can play a role in making a difference within the Chicago Public Schools.
Can you walk us through, you mentioned it was the security guard's wife that came forward with this information. Can you just walk us through that and how, who she approached and how this alleged cover-up happened, basically?
Yeah, so to the best of our knowledge, the security guard's then wife found communications between our client and her wife. It was communications on social media platforms, messages that included obviously explicit messages, inappropriate messages between an adult and a minor. She then brought that to the school administrations. There was a meeting that occurred, and due to those threats, nothing seemed to happen when her wife denied it. Her wife denied that this ever occurred. But where we see a huge failure is that there was another adult who had documented evidence of the abuse occurring, of an inappropriate relationship occurring, and the school let it go because the security guard said it didn't happen. And so after that, it's unclear whether or not there was any sort of inquiry into any additional evidence. What we do know is, to the best of our knowledge, it was never referred out to DCFS, which the school, they're mandatory reporters, that should have happened. And to our knowledge, there was no referral to the Chicago Police Department either.
Do we know until when the security guard remained
2018.
So a few years later.
Correct.
And the security guard is female?
Correct.
That's correct.
Is there a criminal investigation going on now?
Currently, there's no criminal investigation pending. It may happen in the future, but right now there's no criminal investigation pending.
And obviously you call this part of like just the systemic issue between CPS. Can you just kind of remind us of a couple of the recent ones that you believe show that there's been no effort to improve the situation?
Well, most recently, we handled a case just down the road, about a mile from Farragut at Little Village Lawndale High School, where you had 8 educators, principals, dean of students, teachers, all at the same time, 2012 to 2016, at the exact same time that this was happening, just down the road. We found in the most recent case that we handled that this was taking place, that the CPS failed to investigate it, mandatory reporters failed to come forward, failed to report it to law enforcement, and it took a civil lawsuit like this one to bring those allegations to light. It's now been confirmed by the CPS in their most recent OIG report that all of those allegations were accurate. So there's a lengthy report that came out just recently, 2025, end of year, that summarizes the long history that the CPS has. It's also been documented in things like the Chicago Tribune through their Betrayed series as well.
This other adult that you mentioned, is she a CPS employee?
I'm sorry?
The other adult that you mentioned, is a CPS employee or?
The spouse?
No, she mentioned that there was another adult that.
The mother, the guard.
The mother.
Oh, the mother of the security guard, yes, was a CPS employee. At this time, we don't know if she's still employed by the Chicago Public Schools.
I want to go through the timeline. The student at the time was 14. She started her freshman year in 2012. That's when it started, freshman year. And then you said it continued all the way to her senior year, but she transferred. So can you kind of...
Yeah, that's correct. So the relationship, she started as a freshman in 2012, and the relationship kind of expanded between some messages here or there. Then the security guard had offered her rides to and from sporting activities, and then it progressed into these isolated visits where severe sexual abuse happened. After the meeting is what we're going to call it. It's not fair to call it an investigation, but after a meeting with the school administration and the threats from the security guard's mother, she then transferred to another school for the last year of high school. However, the sexual abuse still continued. The security guard was aware of where she transferred to, was still communicating with her, and was still able to have these isolated incidents with our client, who ultimately was terrified about these threats to her and her family.
The assaults, however, I mean, at least from the notes that I'm looking at that you sent out earlier, began in 2015 or began before?
It was sooner than that.
Okay, because the press release said that it was, it's a near daily basis when she was a junior, but it started.
Correct. It started before that, and as the abuse continued, the sexual abuse actually escalated.
Is there any allegation that the abuse incidents themselves took place on school grounds?
Most of the abuse, the abuser actually took her off school grounds for the majority of the abuse.
The security guard's mother, you call her an administrator. Can you be more specific about the position she had? And also, you mentioned threats from the security guard's mother, how she may, or may not, but may have meddled in the CPS investigation or lack thereof.
Yeah, so our understanding is the security guard mother held a position within the administration. We believe it was a secretary or treasurer, but someone who had access to all of our clients' personal information. She had access to her address, to the names of her family members, and so that information was kind of trickled down from the mother to the security guard herself, who would let the client know that we have access to all of your information. We can find you, we know where your family lives, and if this information ever gets out, we will report your family to ICE.
We also know that the mother of the security, we also know that the mother of the security guard was the one that spoke to the mother of our client and strongly recommended that she transfer schools. Now, we believe that that's a veiled threat. We intend to find out more. We intend to depose, obviously, the security guard's mother, to get more information about that conversation. But those are the elements and the things that we're looking at in terms of the threats that were made.
I see that this lawsuit is against the Board of Education and the district. Are you seeking any legal action against the security guard specifically and the security guard's mother?
Not at this time. We expect the Chicago Police Department to look into this. Obviously, we'll be willing to work with them if they want to look into those allegations. But the focus of our lawsuit is on the systemic failures of the Board of Education and on the public schools. Of course, what the security guard did, what the individual employees at the school did was wrong. But our focus here in this lawsuit is on the Board of Education and its policies to allow this to keep happening.
So maybe I missed this. The security guard and the mother, are they either working for CPS in general? Like, are they, can you at least tell us generally where they are?
So the security guard no longer works for CPS, and to the best of our knowledge, she no longer lives in Chicago. It's unclear whether or not her mother still holds a position within CPS and still resides in the area, but the security guard no longer lives in the area.
Do you believe there are any other victims associated with this guard and the mother?
Right now we have no information that suggests in either direction. What we do know is that there have been documented instances within the JROTC program, which is what there was at Farragut Academy, that there have been documented incidents of either trainers, teachers, other people within the JROTC program within CPS that have abused students and have failed to report these. That has been documented in the OIG reports. So we do know that this is not just a problem within all of the CPS schools, but it is also very specific to this type of program amongst the schools.
Just to confirm, you're Bryce, right?
Correct.
Bryce, Jennifer, yes.
Thank you.
Any additional questions?
Can you just on camera spellings if there's another station taking this?
Yeah. Jennifer, Jennifer, Cascio, Cascio.
And Bryce Hensley, Bryce, last name Hensley.
Final question. I saw that you're demanding a jury trial. Is there a specific amount of damages you're seeking, or what would feel like justice to your client?
At this time, what we've included within the complaint is the jurisdictional minimum to get into court is $50,000. We're seeking an amount far in excess of that. Ultimately, going before a jury, we ask them to compensate our client for all of the things that they've gone through, the pain and suffering, the emotional distress, the loss of what would be a normal life. At this time, we don't have a dollar figure. We are intent on proceeding with this case to trial and letting a jury let us know what they think the case is worth.
Can you say the last time that your client had contact with the security guard, like the final time that they communicated?
We believe it was the early 2020s, so a couple years ago.
Why did they continue communicating up until then?
So after our client turned 18, I hesitate to call it a relationship, but the grooming that had taken place when our client was 14, 15, 16, it's well documented that in many instances, minor children become attached to their abuser. The relationship did continue after our client turned 18 for a short period of time, and so the contact continued up past our client's graduation from high school.
Yeah, but that was still 11 years ago. You said that they were in contact up until 2020.
The early 2020s. They still maintained communication from time to time. I don't know all of the details of the relationship beyond that at this point, but our client eventually cut off the communications.
Okay, we have time for one more question. All set?
Thank you all very much for your time.
Thank you, folks.
Yeah, thank you.